explains everything very clearly to Arjun. At that time, we have reached almost, I think, the 35th verse of this chapter 6. And now it's turn for Arjun to question Sri Krishna. It reminds me of an incident where the boss of the office explains the project in detail, and all the employees are listening to it. But one of the employees is lost because he thinks whether we as employees will be able to sustain the project in the first place or not, because the project looks very good. However, should we be able to sustain the project is the question. In the same way, Sri Krishna has explained how the mind of a yogi becomes tranquil, the way he becomes equanimous, and he sees everyone with an equal vision. However, Arjun is questioning, Oh Krishna, is all this possible with this mind? This mind is such a nuisance. This mind is so fickle. Will it be able to sustain all this or continue all this? So this is the question that Arjun raises now. Now, uh, okay. I think the last time we had done the 33rd verse, if I'm not wrong, isn't it? No. So let's start with the 34th verse today. And there are some very interesting things in the shlokas we're going to do today. This and very practical.
Sakhi,
Yes.
I think we already did the 34th first. We're on the 35th now.
Okay, okay, thank you. I'll continue from there. Give me 1 minute. So I will copy paste right from 34. So you can see the 35th verse on your screen. Now, after Arjun has already said that the mind is very restless, turbulent, strong, obstinate, he has used all possible words to indicate that the mind is not going to cooperate. The mind will not cooperate whom? The master, which is the soul. And therefore, it is difficult to control the mind, says Arjun. Now, in the 35th verse, as you all can see, Lord Sri Krishna says that, O mighty armed one, O son of Kunti, Arjuna's mother is Kunti. What you say is absolutely correct. My dear friends, every one of us is facing the same problem. The mind is the same for everyone. It is so fickle, it is so jittery. It will not allow you to become peaceful or become fixed on a certain thing. The moment you try to focus, it will start running away. So Shri Krishna says, yes, you're completely Accurately correct, O Arjun. It is very difficult to restrain the mind. But now look at the Lord's words. He is saying, however, it is by practice and detachment that the mind can be controlled. So, in the words of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, said by the Lord, he says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihiyate. This is what the verse is, the 35th verse. It is by abhyas. What is abhyas? Study or constant practice. That is called abhyas. The second thing what the Lord has mentioned here is detachment. Detachment is also called as vairagya. So, both these things will help you to restrain the mind. Agreed that controlling the mind is like controlling the wind, as Arjun had already mentioned. But Shri Krishna says, even such a speedy mind can be brought under control by these two techniques. So, in today's session, I look forward to discuss these two techniques in some more depth because it will be really helpful to you in your entire life. After all this is the teachings of Bhagavad Gita which can be implemented in your life practically. So, my dear friends, even when we look to control or to bring the mind and the self-restraint, pitfalls are bound to be there. Impending dangers are bound to be there. There is no question about it. However, please listen to this very attentively. You have to harness the mind. I'm using the term harness. What is harnessing actually? Can anybody give their own views about it before I go on? What is harnessing?
Is it to tame?
Yes, it is detail. Yes. Anyone else would like to put in your own words? No. All right. So, what is harnessing actually? We know the mind is very powerful and strong. Now, it has got all the energy. From where does the mind derive the energy? It is from the master, that is the soul. But the mind is utilizing that same energy towards the material world and towards the material objects. Now, harnessing here means that the energy which the mind has, it has to be utilized towards the spiritual goal of the master. Who is the master? The soul. Therefore, as when I mentioned here, it is taming the mind. Imagine a wild horse. A wild horse will not allow anyone to sit at its back and to ride it. The same thing with the mind. The mind has a monopoly. It will not allow even the master to take control over itself. But as the master, and after the master is awakened from Maya, the Jiva, the soul, the master, understands the importance of harnessing the mind. So the energies of mind have to be utilized for the spiritual attainment of goal. That is how the mind has to be trained and tamed. This is called harnessing. Now, what are the various ways by which the mind can be harnessed? This is a very beautiful thing. Let us look into it slightly in depth. The very first thing, as Sri Krishna says, abhyasena, which means by practice or by study. Uninterrupted practice of the soul and using its willpower will help in harnessing the mind. So, dear friends, the soul has got its willpower. For those who know a little bit of Hindi or Gujarati, we also call it Atmabal. So, that is called willpower, Atmabal. And that willpower has to be exercised. I give you one small example. For example, we say an athlete, he wishes to conquer a certain competition for which he has to undergo preparation for months and months until on that day, for about an hour or two, he can give his best. So, what will he do? He will put himself under constant practice, after which the athlete will be prepared for those 2 hours or 1 hour of the competition. If the athlete thinks, today I'm feeling lazy, I want to sleep over, I do not want to get up on time, I do not want to have what is being told by my physician to have, what will happen? He is not practicing, or he is, certainly crossing over the rules meant for him. But what he has to do instead? Whenever the mind becomes jittery, he has to win over the mind using willpower. So the athlete will utilize his willpower and say to the mind that, Mr. Mind, I have set a goal for myself. Better cooperate because I'm not going to listen to you. So, mind is such a thing which will pull you down at an essential time. Therefore, Sri Krishna says the best way is to practice. A steady goal should be set for yourself. If you're following the goal, then even if the mind wants to interrupt using the willpower, you have to stop the mind, restrain the mind from doing so. Now, what is the advantage of practicing? I give you a sequence of activities. The very first thing is that there should be indifference in yourself. The mind should become indifferent. Yes, today if I get a cup of coffee, it is okay. If I don't get it, is also okay. If you have that mindset, if I get to sleep completely, it is okay. Maybe today I may not get to sleep very comfortably, even then it is okay. I do not mind. So there is a indifference in the mind. Okay, fine, I am okay with everything. If that indifference is there, then it leads to practice. When you start practicing, saying that whatever hardships come in my way, I'm okay with it. Now, once you have made your mind to practice, what comes next is the willpower in you leads you to constant practice. Mind the words. First, I used only the word practice. Now I'm using the word constant practice. So, willpower will lead to constant practice. Just to see whether you all are able to understand or not, please answer me. I started off by saying when the mind becomes indifferent, what does this indifference lead to? Indifference leads to what do you
Indifference
study?
indifference can lead to willpower, which can lead to constant practice.
This one thing, indifference leads to practice. And then the second step is willpower leads to constant practice. So when you are in a constant practice, that leads you to a habit. Every day when you are getting up early at the same time, a routine is formed, a habit is formed, isn't it? And once that habit is formed, that constant habit will lead you to a character. You have seen some athletes, you have seen some big personalities in your life. If you just go through their autobiography or something, you will notice they strictly adhere to disciplines. They stick to what they have meant for themselves because they have won over their mind. It is therefore said, one gets victory over the world when he is victorious over his own mind in the first place, isn't it? So, without you getting victory on your own mind, how will you be victorious in the world? So, I'll quickly repeat the sequence. Please follow it. It will be very good in your own life if you can apply this. The first thing is becoming indifferent. You say, okay, yes, if I will have to face some hardships, I am okay to do so. Such indifference will lead you to practice step number one. Step number two is when you utilize your willpower now. That will lead to constant practice every day, consistently. Now, this constant practice leads to a habit. And that habit, as the fourth step, leads to a character. So our character should be such, our habits should be such, where we are strictly in discipline so that we can achieve no matter how big the goal is. So this is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, which Shri Krishna imparts to Arjuna. As I said, what did Shri Krishna say? Abhyas, which means study or constant practice. That is called abhyas. Now, just a minute. Now, the next thing we have to look at is how does one actually get into practice? My dear friends, it is because of the words of a saint or the words of a motivator. The words of a motivator or a saint carry immense power. Why? The saint has put it into practice himself. He has experienced it. And then he is telling you, if he merely tells you, it will not touch your heart at all. But when he himself has brought into practice and has succeeded, has experienced that this works, this formula really works, then when he gives it to you, the words of that motivator, that saint, carry immense power to transform you. That is where the indifference in your attitude starts. Now, as we discussed abhyas or practice, the second thing which Sri Krishna has mentioned here is dispassion or vairagya. You may also call it detachment. What is detachment? We are so much attached to so many things, to so many people. But even if you are attached, see to it that you are attached for the good. You give them company, you take their company. However, do not be attached to that level where you become completely dependent on the person. So Sri Krishna says, if you practice detachment or dispassion, you will be independent. You will be on your own. That is a very important thing. Now, if you club all these points, what is Sri Krishna saying? Let us say a person is inspired by a saint's words. He becomes indifferent, goes into constant practice, forms the habit, the character, and everything. Now, Sri Krishna says that if you have this level of sincerity, then obviously Sri Krishna will shower his grace upon you, isn't it? Because after all, it is your sincerity because of which Sri Krishna showers his grace. And what is the result? Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate giram. Even the lame can cross over a mountain. That is a result. So grace is something which makes impossible into possible. There is a story of a lady who was thrown out of the train. It is a story in India, in UP, somewhere in Lucknow. And despite of that, she had so many fractures, multiple fractures in the body, three fractures in the spine, and one of the legs were cut. And still she dared to climb the peak of Mount Everest and succeeded in that. Sounds impossible, right? But that is what tells us that mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati girim. Even the lame can reach the peak of the highest mountain if grace is there upon the individual. So, what I'm trying to say is sincerity is what causes even the divine to shower his grace upon you. As a result, the impossible task also becomes possible. So, uh, if you give me a minute, I will give you the name of the lady. Yes, it is Arunima Sinha. Arunima Sinha, who is an Indian mountaineer, and she also won um, the Bharat Ratna, I think. That was the award she won after she climbed the peak of Mount Everest. And it took 52 days for climbing up. When she was returning with nearly some oxygen left, the Sherpa or the mountain climber who was accompanying her said, "Do not venture going still higher because you have very little oxygen left." Still, she ventured to do that, and she reached the top. She was coming down when she started feeling giddy because there was no oxygen left. You won't believe what had happened is another Britisher who was climbing up the mountain, he gave up in between, and he had two oxygen cylinders. One was completely fresh and packed. Now, since he had to get down, he wanted to reduce the heaviness of his luggage, and he threw away an oxygen cylinder then and there. And that came in use for this lady. Can you imagine? Because when you are there on a mountain, getting that oxygen cylinder when you require it the most to save your own life, and you get it, isn't it divine grace? So, what I'm trying to say is when you work towards a goal, when you want to conquer your mind, you do it sincerely with constant practice. The divine will surely bestow his grace upon you. There is no doubt about it. And what happens due to that grace? All the elements of nature will start supporting you to achieve that goal, although it is impossible. With an amputated leg, with an artificial leg, that lady could climb the mountain top, Mount Everest. So amazing story. It just reminded me because Pangum Langayate Girim. Pangum is a lame. A lame cannot reach the mountain top, but with grace he can. So that is why we just went into this story. And alright. So as Sri Krishna is discussing about the first thing, practice, the second thing is dispassion. These two have to be utilized to harness the mind. And then Sri Krishna says, what are the aids to make the mind detached or to make it dispassionate? He discusses that there is satsang with like minded people. So, what is satsang? As we are doing here, we are discussing the teachings of Shrimad Bhagvatgita. And because of this satsang, because of what we are discussing, the teachings are giving us so much of power. Now, I am doing it with like minded people because the others will not be able to understand or grab even a word of it. So, satsang has to be done with like minded people, those who endeavor to achieve something great in life. So, this is how satsang is yet another aid or tool that we are supposed to constantly do with like minded people. As in our Srimukh Vani, Sri Prannaji has mentioned this. You can quote this if you all want. Sri Prannaji says, Charcha sunajo din ne raat. Actually, I'll give you the entire chopai also. I don't mind doing that, but at least you all have to remember this much. Charcha sunajo din ne raat. Should I type it to you all? Just a minute. Okay. At least you all can remember this much. The complete reply is તે માટે તમે સુણજો સાથ એક કહું અનુપમ વાત ચર્ચા સુણજો દિનને રાત આપણને તૃઠા શ્રી પ્રાણનાથ. So charcha sunjo dinne raat. Can we listen to charcha or satsang day and night? What does it mean? The implied meaning of this extract of the chopai is that Rannaji says, even though we may be meeting only once a week for discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita teachings, however, whatever you gain in this 1 hour should remain persistently with you in your mind day and night, which means you should try and implement it. You should try and churn over whatever you've heard during this hour of satsang. Then all those things will help you because those things will be able to protect you during the wrong times, to guide you during times of depression. Therefore, constant discrimination between what is true and what is illusory, that also can be facilitated only by satsang. Whether it is through Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it could be through our Vani, it could be through the Bhagavad, it could be through any scripture. But satsang is extremely important because there is constant discrimination between true and false. It is like um, separating rice and the chaff. So, just as the husk of the rice has to be separated for bringing the rice into use. Similarly, whatever we have right now is all the material objects, but the soul within us is the master. That is the rice. The body is the husk or the chef. That has to be understood as well as the soul has to be understood. There should be clear distinction between the two. So, satsang helps you to understand what is the importance of the divine knowledge and what is the importance of material wealth. How long will it be able to help you? So, all these points get covered under our 35th verse. Now, please let me know if you have any questions about this. Okay. So, I have a question for you all. What are the two things which Sri Krishna mentioned to Arjun by which the mind can be harnessed?
Yeah. Through practice and attachment, the mind can be controlled.
Very good. By practice and by detachment, the mind can be controlled. So, all the rest of the things, I hope they were helpful to you because all these things, it takes real effort to be able to explain it also. It is so in depth. However, we are trying to do so because it should help you in your day to day life. If you can master your mind, you can achieve any goal, which even sounds impossible. You can still achieve any goal when you have mastered your mind. So, now with that, I proceed to the 36th verse. I'll share it with you all. Okay? Now, in the 36th verse, it is said, Yoga is difficult to attain for the one whose mind is unrestrained or unbridled. It is out of control. Then you cannot achieve anything in your life, any goal in your life. Yoga is also unattainable. However, those who have learned to control the mind and who strive earnestly by proper means can attain perfection in yoga. Sri Krishna says, this is my opinion. It is very important because the Lord, when He knows every creature of the world, whatever He opens is the ultimate. Then we should not think that, can this be done? There should not be any question in our mind because the Lord has said that this is going to surely happen. If you control your mind, then you will be able to achieve perfection in you. So, as we proceed to the 37th verse, now what is Arjuna saying? After all this discussion, what has Arjuna got to say? He says, but oh Lord, you say the one who will do it with sincerity will attain perfection in yoga. Okay, fine. But what about the person who was striving to attain perfection in yoga? However, due to some reason or the other, he could not attain perfection in yoga. For that individual, Arjuna is questioning, will he get any place in the heavens Or will he get any place in this earth? What will happen to him? So the words of the verse are, what is the fate of the unsuccessful yogi? He may have tried, but he may have given up. Who begins the path with faith, but who does not endeavor sufficiently due to an unsteady mind and is unable to reach the goal of yoga in this life. You may have come across some incidences where a person is striving all his life, but till the end of his life also, he is unable to achieve his goal. What happens to the efforts which the person puts? Does it all go in vain? That is what Arjun is questioning. So, further, he says, does not such a person who deviates from yoga get deprived of both the material and spiritual success? Because he was trying to get a spiritual goal, but he did not get the spiritual goal. He also did not enjoy the material things. Was he deprived of both? That is Arjun's question. And further, he says, will he perish like a broken cloud with no position in either sphere? Either sphere means on this earth or in the heavens. So, what is a broken cloud? The, the phrase perish like a broken cloud or a riven cloud, it refers to the individual becoming aimless in his life. He started with sincerity and faith, but somewhere during his journey, he just could not make it, and now he has become aimless. So, this is what becoming like a broken cloud means. So, here, as an answer, Sri Krishna tells Arjun what happens to such an individual. But Arjun is actually, he's getting so unsteady because of the unsteadiness of the mind, the restlessness of the mind, that he is asking questions upon questions to the Lord. But if you look at it the other way, it is only for our sake because there is an Arjun in each one of us. An Arjun who has an unsteady mind is there within us as well. So that Arjun is questioning Sri Krishna. Please, he says in the 39th verse, please dispel this doubt of mine completely. For who other than you can do it for me? So, oh Lord, please dispel this doubt of mine. So, this is what Arjun says to Sri Krishna. Okay, I have to give you the next verse, that is 39. Yes, it is. Shri Krishna's answer is extremely beautiful. So let's have a look at it. In the 40th verse, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna says, O Parth, the one who engages on the spiritual path and does not meet his goal. Yet, Krishna says he will never meet destruction either in this world or in the heavens, in the worlds above this world, because he has chosen the spiritual path with sincerity. Therefore, Shri Krishna says he will never, never, never meet with destruction. So, Shri Krishna adds by saying, my dear friend Arjun, the one who strives for God realization is never overcome by evil. So, in this manner, now the two verses after this, the 41st and the 42nd, are very interesting. What will happen to that yogi? So, you can please note this and give me about half a minute. I'll just come back to it. Okay. Now, let's see what Sri Krishna gives as an answer to Arjun. Sri Krishna says in the 41st and 42nd verse that those unsuccessful yogis, why is he calling them unsuccessful? Because they may not have attained the goal or the perfection in goal. Therefore, he is calling them unsuccessful yogis. However, Krishna is saying that even after they drop this body, whatever efforts they had put in for attainment of the goal will not go in vain. Please be attentive. He says those efforts which he put during his lifetime will not go in vain. If he drops his body and he has not yet attained the goal, what about the efforts which he put in? Those efforts would be carried forward to the next birth. So, Shri Krishna is very clear that even though you make efforts, and if you're not able to achieve the goal in this very life, those efforts which you put in will be carried forward to your next birth. So now he explains that the unsuccessful yogi, where will he land? Krishna says that they will go into the higher worlds. They will be resting over there for some time. And after experiencing peace of the higher worlds, they will come back and take birth in the mortal world. After dwelling there for many ages, they are again reborn in the earth plane. Now, where are they reborn? That is the main question. He says that they will be born in a family of pious and prosperous people. So, pious means those who practice religion, those who are spiritually oriented people, spiritual minded, those families are the pious families or the prosperous families, which means very wealthy ones. Now, please look at it again. The unsuccessful yogi goes to the higher planes, rests over there, takes a rebirth in this plane of earth in the pious and prosperous families. This is one thing. Now, Sri Krishna says, else, if they had developed dispassion due to long practice of yoga, they are born into a family endowed with divine wisdom. Both the possibilities are there. Being born in a pious family or a prosperous family, or being born in a family which has divine wisdom. Now, I consider all of you all are born in such families who have divine wisdom. Because if you look at your parents, your grandparents, and your great grandparents also, you will notice that they all have developed a wisdom. Their wisdom is to go to Sri Paramdham. So they do Seva Puja. They do a lot of Seva in the temples. They serve the Sundar Sat community so well. So that wisdom is there in them. And you all are blessed souls to have been born in such prosperous, pious families, and those families who also have the divine wisdom. So, this is how the birth of that yogi takes place. Now, such a birth is very difficult to attain in this world, says Sri Krishna, because, see, all said and done, even the doctrines say you may get a lot of wealth, you may get a lot of amenities, you may earn a lot of name and fame to the extent that you may conquer even the paradise or even the higher worlds above the paradise. That could be possible, dear friends. But if you get a human embodiment from where you look to go to Paramdham, getting such a human embodiment where you get the divine sacred knowledge of Sri Krishna, that is the most difficult to attain. That you can attain only because of the sadhana which you have done earlier in your previous births. That has caused you to come to this birth and to pave your way to Sri Paramdham. I think earlier I might have given you this example. I just want to connect that example here. There were prisoners who were questioned by the jailer on the Independence Day. What are the difficulties that you'll face in the cell? Let us know, and we shall try to evict any of those difficulties which you all are facing. You all can demand anything that you want. So, one of the prisoners said that there are too many rats in the cell. Someone else said there are too many mosquitoes. Please do something about it. Everyone was asking something or the other as a repair or a change in that cell. One of the prisoner said, I will not ask any repair or any change in the cell, but if I am given the liberation, I will ask for one thing. So the jailer said, please go ahead. And the prisoner asked, please complete my punishment and set me free from here. That is what I want. Whereas the other prisoners, they were trying to get something within the cell itself, some improvisation. Whereas that wise prisoner said, please free me from this prison. So, does it make sense? Because we here in the human embodiment are not asking for material things or objects. What are we asking for? We are asking for liberation. Because after all, this birth is good. However, you never know what the other births will bring you. So, we want that this birth should be successful and we should be liberated to Sri Paramdham, Sri Krishna's supreme divine abode. That is why, my dear friends, so this is what Sri Krishna is explaining in the 42nd verse to Arjun, that being born in such a family itself is a very big thing because the door to Paramdham opens from the human embodiment. And especially when that family in which you are born is having divine wisdom. So it is really helpful for the soul to attain that goal of Paramdham and the to complete and to attain the perfection in you. So this is what Sri Krishna explains to Arjun. Are there any doubts in your mind? You can please ask it. So, um, a couple of quick questions and we conclude. What is the question Arjun is asking in the 38th verse? What is there in his mind? Please say in your own words. I don't want what you have noted.
He's asking what happens to the fate of an unsuccessful yogi, which is like someone that tried but couldn't attain their goal.
Yes. So will he get placed in either sphere means?
Earth or the heavens.
Also, it's very good. Yes. Now, what does Sri Krishna say to him regarding this? Verse 40, 41, 42.
Shri Krishna says that the yogi's efforts are not in vain and that their efforts will carry over to the next life.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. So where will such a yogi be born?
Either in the they'll either be born into a family of pious people or prosperous people, or they can be born into a family with divine wisdom.
Beautiful. Very well connected. Yes. So please tell me, is it difficult to attain such a birth in a family with people having divine wisdom?
Yes.
Yes. It is indeed very difficult because you may get material wealth, you may get prosperity, name, and fame. However, getting such kind of a birth is very difficult. And if one gets birth in such a family, what is the consequence? What can he attain? What goal can be attained by him?
Becoming a yoga.
It is. He can become perfect in yoga, one thing. He can attain the goal of Paramdham, isn't it? When he is born in such a family, only then it becomes easier for that individual in that birth to continue his sadhana from where he had dropped it. From there itself, he will continue. He will not have to restart or re-begin from zero. No. So, being born in such a family, all the earlier virtues which he had performed will be carried forward and he will be able to attain Paramdham. So, let's conclude our session for today. Any questions about this, you can always ask, even in the next session, or maybe you can ask by a WhatsApp message. That is fine.